around and see how we're doing compared to every other nation. And our rise is spectacular, and we're rebounding much more quickly from the pandemic. The U.S. economy added 1.4 million jobs last month. We've added a record-setting 10.6 million jobs since May. 10.6 million jobs since May. That's a record that is not even close. Second place is a long ways away. In July, the Congressional Budget Office was projecting unemployment over 10.5% through the end of 2020. So they thought 2020, and maybe it would be a lot longer than that. Some projections where you'd go through the entire year, and that includes a lot of months in the following year, 2021. And instead, the unemployment rate plunged, really to the surprise of many, all the way down to 8.4% in August. And that's the second largest single-month decline on record. And we have the first. We have both of them. So we have the two number one declines, decline meaning positive, not negative. We're currently witnessing the fastest labor market recovery from an economic crisis in history, world history. By contrast, Biden presided over the worst, the weakest, and the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. It was a long, slow slog, and it was a very small on growth and very small on every other factor that you need. It was the weakest recovery. Under my leadership, next year will be the greatest economic year in the history of our country, I project. And some people are starting to agree. We have a V shape. It's probably a super V. And you see what's going on with the stock market, where it's, in certain cases, already setting records. The NASDAQ has set 17 records already. And this is as we're hopefully rounding the final turn in the pandemic. First, we'll end the pandemic under Operation Warp Speed. We've pioneered groundbreaking therapies, reducing the fatality rate 85% since April. You don't hear that from the press very often. They don't like to talk about that. So the fatality rate, 85%. Think of that, since April. The United States has experienced among the lowest case fatality rates of any major country in the world. And we are an absolute leader in every way. Under my leadership, we'll produce a vaccine in record time. Biden and his very liberal running mate, the most liberal person in Congress, by the way, is not a competent person, in my opinion, would destroy this country and would destroy this economy, should immediately apologize for the reckless anti-vaccine rhetoric that they are talking right now, talking about endangering lives, and it undermines science. And what's happening is all of a sudden you'll have this incredible vaccine, and because of that fake rhetoric, it's a political rhetoric, that's all it is, just for politics, because now they see we've done an incredible job, and in speed like nobody's ever seen before. This could have taken 2 or 3 years, and instead it's going to be it's going to be done in a very short period of time. Could even have it during the month of October. So contrary to all of the lies, the vaccine, that they're politicalized. They'll say anything. And it's so dangerous for our country, what they say. But the vaccine will be very safe and very effective, and it'll be delivered very soon. You could have a very big surprise coming up. I'm sure you'll be very happy, but the people will be happy. The people of the world will be happy. Next, we'll return to unprecedented prosperity through our pro-American policies. We'll pass new tax cuts to boost take-home pay. We're going to be cutting taxes very substantially. We get it back through growth. We had tremendous growth until we got hit with the China virus. We'll continue our historic regulatory reduction campaign. We've, as you know, in 3.5 years, we've cut more regulations than any other administration, no matter how long, no matter what period of time you're talking about. We'll enact fair trade deals, and we're working on 7 major fair trade deals right now. And when I say fair, fair to our country, because our country was ripped off by every nation. Friend, foe, didn't matter. Every nation was ripping us off at a level that it's just unbelievable, to be honest. we're going to be expanding opportunity zones, and we will keep that going. It's been a tremendous program. I want to thank Senator Scott, South Carolina, for coming up with that whole concept, because he came up and I liked it right away, and it's really turned out to be a tremendous thing, especially for African Americans, Hispanic Americans. We'll continue to unleash American energy. We're #1 in the world, and we're totally energy independent right now. And in 2021, we'll create 10 million jobs at least in the first 10 months. Joe Biden, the radical socialist Democrats, would immediately collapse the economy. If they got in, they would collapse it. You'll have a crash the likes of which you've never seen before. Your stocks, your 401ks. Remember, it's the people that own these massive listed companies. A lot of people, rich people and not so rich people and middle income people, and those stocks will crash like you've never seen before. The Biden plan begins with a $4 trillion tax hike, and that will end everything, including growth. There won't be growth. There'll be total contraction. Biden's also pledged to demolish the U.S. energy industry and implement the same policies causing blackouts in California. He wants to have things lit up with wind. He'll have to talk to China, Russia, India, and lots of other countries, because they're not doing that. And if they're not doing it, it puts us at a tremendous economic disadvantage, and it doesn't work. You take a look at the blackouts in California. It's really rather amazing what's going on there. They've tried to go, and that's just with a small portion going that route. That doesn't work, and it can't fire up our big plants. We're going to have this great industry that we've created. Can't fire up our big plants. Biden's plan for the China virus is to shut down the entire U.S. economy. He's going to totally rely on somebody to walk up. Yes, sir, it's time to shut it down. He'd be laying off tens of millions of workers and causing countless deaths from suicide, substance abuse, depression, heart disease, and other very serious illnesses. Because when you do a shutdown, there's a problem on the other side.
Let's bring back in our panel. NBC's Mike Memoli covering the Biden campaign in Harrisburg, and NBC business and tech correspondent Jolene Kent with a reality check on the economy. I'm also joined by former Democratic Congresswoman Donna Edwards and MSNBC political analyst Rick Tyler, author of the new book, Still Right. All right, Jolene, I want to start with you. Talk us through the picture that the president is painting there of the current state of the economy versus a more complicated reality that Americans are now living through.
Alicia, I just want to fact check the president's claims on the economy, because I think that he's talking about some pretty critical things that you should better understand what the real deal is here. First of all, when he opened his remarks there, he just said it's the fastest recovery ever. Now, if you take a look at the numbers, you do see a very rapid recovery. Back in May and June, when about 7.5 million jobs were added back into the economy. But the rate of job growth since then has slowed down, especially back in August. So he's touting the August jobs report, but when you look closer, yes, 1.4 million new jobs added to the economy is a step in the right direction, but you see the slowing down of hiring, which could become very problematic for a lot of people who are trying to re-enter the economy, signaling that maybe we're looking at a major restructuring. The other thing President Trump just said is that he thinks it will be a super V recovery, basically a bounce back here, and he's citing records on the stock market. Now, if you take a look, again, the growth of jobs continues to slow down, and most experts do not believe that we're in a V recovery. In fact, a lot of economists I've been speaking to who lean both left and lean right are fearful of a double-dip recession and a coronavirus recession turning into a more traditional recession, which is harder to dig yourself out of. Now, the last thing the president said that really jumped out to me here is that this recovery could have taken 2 to 3 years, but because of what President Trump says he has done, it will be a very short time of recovery. However, if you hear from Jay Powell, his Federal Reserve chairman, he is already saying earlier this year that this recovery could take until the end of 2021. So people in his own administration, he's appointed by the president, of course, saying that this would take a lot longer. If you also look at some of the major banks, JP Morgan also saying that this recovery is going to, at best, take until the end of next year. So he's making some claims based on the August jobs report and based on some old data that don't necessarily hold water when you